Hi everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the Olive Drab Alliance. I'm just out here in the orchard checking on how things are going. The deer nibbled up some of the apple trees, but they sprung right back. There's a few little apples, a few little pears already growing. It's always been a kind of a dream of mine to have an orchard, and now we have one, and it's great. It's just fantastic. It's a lot of work, but one day it'll be very rewarding. Hopefully this year we'll get some apples and pears and whatnot. We've got apples, pears, plums, grapes. Today I'm going to be planting a new tree. We're going to put a chestnut tree over there by the property line. Not too close, of course, but maybe we'll get some chestnuts one of these days. Or maybe the deer will get some chestnuts. Maybe it'll keep them away from my apple trees anyway. We are very fortunate and blessed to have such a lovely place where we can plant a few apple trees, a few pear trees, a few plum trees, some grapes, blueberries, blackberries, all sorts of things in our orchard. But what do you do if you don't have a place that you can plant stuff? What do you do if you live in an apartment or in a city, or you've got a very, very small yard, or maybe even an HOA that would not allow you to plant things on your own property? Get out of there. If you can't get out of there, you got to look for alternatives, and we're going to talk about something today, and I'm going to say this many times during this video. I'll try to edit some of them out so I don't become too repetitive. That is not only frowned upon by the law, but in a lot of cases straight up illegal. We're going to talk about pirate orchardry. So what do I mean by pirate orchardry? Does it mean I come out here in the orchard with an eye patch on and a peg leg and talk like a pirate? No. It means planting orchard or other kind of various crops on land that isn't yours. Usually it's public land, but it's not yours. Maybe it's controlled by the city, the county, the state, or even the federal government. Doing this on private property is a whole different ballgame. Now you're talking about trespassing. Let's not go there. We're not going on someone else's property to plant things without their permission, of course. But what we're talking about is going to like a state park, a county park, federal land, something like that, and planting things that you could harvest in the future. Is it illegal? Yes. Are there ways to do it legally? Yes, there are. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. Do I recommend you do this illegally? Absolutely not. I absolutely do not recommend that you break the law in any way. You should familiarize yourself with the laws in your area, wherever in the world you might be, and be guided accordingly. But there are people that don't follow the law. There are people that don't care about the law. And there are people that do this sort of thing. And I'm going to show you of what I think. I think I found a place near me where there's been some pirate orchardry going on, and I'm going to show that to you a little bit later here. But there are people that go onto land that's not theirs and plant stuff for their own purposes. Now, one of those purposes could be to harvest at a later date. Another one of those purposes could be to feed the wildlife, the game, the animals that they like to hunt, so that those animals become more plentiful or larger, or trying to get a trophy buck type thing, so you plant a bunch of chestnut trees in the state forest. Yeah, there's people that do that. And do I think it's immoral? I don't know. I'm not here to judge anyone. You know, only God and the law can judge you. But I think there is a risk with this sort of behavior as far as introducing a species of plant that could disrupt the natural balance of things. You know, you might go in there thinking, well, I'm just going to plant a couple of these, and next thing you know, it takes over and wipes out all the other plants. So there are risks involved to the ecosystem. So that's why it's probably not legal to do. Anyway, I got a new tree to plant right over there. So I got to dig me a hole. I got to dig me a hole twice as big, twice as wide, and twice as deep as the pot that this tree came in. I'm going to put a bag of composted cow manure at the bottom of that hole, and I'm going to plant the tree, and then I'm going to brace it up because we do get a lot of wind here. And yeah, it's a chestnut tree. planting a chestnut tree. It'll be the first nut tree we have out here. Everything else is either berries or fruit, so kind of excited for the chestnut tree. Well, there I am, getting ready to plant a tree. Now this tree that I'm planting is being planted on our property, so the same principles apply if it was not my property. I mean, it's pretty basic. If your tree comes in a container like the one I'm going to plant, you dig a hole twice as wide as the container. I like to dig them twice as deep. That allows enough room for a bag of composted cow manure to help feed those new roots, give them a good start. But if I was going to plant a tree on, let's say, government land, for example, that I didn't own, I would probably look more into the bare root trees. That way I don't have to lug around this huge, heavy bucket of dirt with a tree coming out of it. A bare root tree basically just is a dormant tree with no dirt around its roots. You got to soak the roots in water for a period of time, and they just look like a stick, you know. And you can order them that way. They'll come to your house in a box, and Bob's your uncle. Off you go to the races to plant yourself some trees. Now, I believe bare root trees are best planted in the early spring, which has always been weird to me because in the early spring, you see these big box stores have set up all their garden centers. And what do they sell? They sell you trees that come in like a bucket. Ideally, that kind of planting you would do in the fall. You might want to do your own research on what works best for your area, your soil, and whatnot. But yeah, definitely if I was trying to be sneaky, I would do bare root trees. Definitely not advising you to do any of that stuff. Just saying if and being all hypothetical here. So let's get back to the video. So right now I'm along the Hennepin Canal. It's a state parkway here in northwestern Illinois, part of the state park system. And I've walked many a mile along this canal. If you've watched my stuff before, chances are you've seen me out here doing my thing. So I've noticed something a little different about this particular stretch of canal. It all started one day. I was out here with my beautiful wife, just walking along. And maybe you can see them, maybe you can't. This whole hillside has asparagus just kind of randomly growing on it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. It's not that unusual to see asparagus growing kind of in the wild here in Illinois, but there's a lot of it. Then I started to notice some other things. I started to notice a lot more mulberry trees than I usually see along the canal. I even saw some apple trees. You don't see too many apple trees out here, but there they were, just kind of randomly growing. Then I saw deer plum trees. I saw all sorts of stuff growing out here. In fact, all along the bank, all up and down this stretch, the state's come in and cleared them out now for the most part, but this used to, all along the bank here, be covered with mulberry trees. And no other stretch of the canal looked like that. And I thought, that's pretty weird. That can't just be a coincidence. Somebody was out here planting stuff. These, my friends, are asparagus plants. They're growing all over this little opening here. Look, even where they mow, it's growing everywhere. Right alongside the canal here. Mixed in with a lot of this vegetation here, I believe these are the deer plums I found last fall. Just kind of a wild plum. They grow to be about the size of a ping pong ball, golf ball. The deer love them. You don't see them in too many other spots. It's a strange coincidence. It's not unusual to see mulberries growing out here. But to see hundreds, maybe even thousands of mulberry trees all close together, kind of strange. A lot of grapevines growing all over the place. That's what those broader leaf, that's what that plant is either wild or planted grape. So what do you do if you don't have a bunch of land, or maybe you don't have any land, but you still want to grow a crop? Well, there's this thing called pirate orchardry, and it's highly illegal, and you should not do it. Neither should I, but definitely don't do this. I'm only making this video because I know there are people that do these things that are against the law, but we're not going to do any of that. We're just pointing it out. For example, right behind me, there's a beautiful apple tree. Probably been here for many years, but it's definitely out of place, because I've walked many a mile along these trails and I ain't seen no other apple trees. Either somebody threw an apple there years ago and it just happened to grow up into a big apple tree, or somebody put it there on purpose. Also along this stretch I see a lot of other things that are out of place. There's asparagus, there's wild plums, a lot of grapevines, which you see those but not in the numbers that you see along this part of the trail. So what is pirate orchardry? Pirate orchardry is where somebody, some ne'er-do-well, some scofflaw, comes along to either state-owned or government-owned or, private property, unfortunately, and they plant things, In this area, there's a lot of walnut trees, so there's already, a food source of the walnuts, but, now you got apples, now you got asparagus, now you've got berries, raspberries, plums. God knows what else has been planted in here. And it doesn't even look out of place. It just looks natural, like it's supposed to be there. And to the untrained eye, they'll just walk right on by and they won't even notice. But here, along this maybe 1 mile stretch of canal, there's a lot that can be harvested. And I don't think it was an accident that it happened like that. I think somebody planted stuff along here because maybe they didn't have the land to do it, or maybe they just want to expand upon their availability of crops. But either way, I don't see a problem with it. And as long as they're not disrupting the balance of the ecosystem or something like that, or trespassing on private property, you definitely don't want to do that. It leads me to believe that somebody who doesn't have any property, maybe they live in an apartment or in a city, could potentially, I wouldn't, because it's against the law, and I know you wouldn't either, but they could potentially go and plant stuff along land they don't own that nobody will notice, but they'll know it's there, and when the need arises, they can go there and get what they need. Boy, the fish are jumping today. I should have brought my fishing pole. Anyway, think about the hunter-gatherer. Sure, there's water here to fish, there are critters here to hunt, but what is there to gather? Without human intervention of some sort, out here you might find walnut, you might find mulberry. You're not going to find much else in mass quantities anyway available to eat. There are some natural fungi that grow around here, some roots that you could probably harvest, but the hunter-gatherer. How do you set up yourself for success as a hunter-gatherer? Well, you might have to plant things today that you can gather in the future. Most people do this on their own property. They call it farming, homesteading, gardening, call it what you will. What if you don't have property, but you could foresee a time where you might have to become a hunter-gatherer? Well, go to where you're going to hunt, go to where you're going to fish, and plant things that you can gather in the future. Now, I didn't come up with the term pirate orchardry. It was, I remember reading something about it years ago. Basically a theory or a practice that you could technically put into place, but you would be breaking the law, so don't do it. And I just always thought it was interesting. And I think what I've stumbled on out here is a place where it actually has been put into practice. Maybe not recently, maybe what I'm seeing is just the remains of an effort put forth years ago by somebody. But definitely, there's more to forage for in this stretch of these trails than there are along the other stretches. You know, think about how much land it would actually take to feed a family of, let's just say a family of 4. You know, just to grow enough fruit and vegetables or livestock, it's going to take a substantial amount of land. And if you don't have any land, and you don't have access to any land, well, you're not going to be able to be self-sufficient as far as food goes. Maybe there's things you can do that don't require land that you can be self-sufficient at, like a good or a service that you can trade for food, and you've accomplished the same mission. Maybe you've got a medical background. Maybe there's something good that you can build, or maybe you're a mechanic, and you can parlay that into the food you need. I think there's 3 methods that you can employ. One, you can be really sneaky, get all camouflaged up, come out here at night under the cover of darkness and plant your trees or whatever you're going to do. But, you know, being sneaky, if somebody does see you, they're going to take note right away. They're going to say, well, that person's up to no good. I can tell by the way they're moving and the time that they're out here and the way they're dressed. Another method you could employ would be just to come out here dressed as you are, middle of the day, act like nothing's going on, come out here with your shovel and your trees and your asparagus roots and just plant them and hope nobody says anything. Hope you don't get snitched out. The third way I was thinking about was to try to look official. Get one of those reflective yellow vests. You've seen me wear one in my video where I'm hiding my buried survival cache alongside the road. I had my yellow vest on, my little garbage picker upper in a bag, and you know, people think you're out here either doing community service or you're on official government business, and you're supposed to be doing what you're doing, right? It's not unusual to see groups of volunteers or, you know, people from the state forestry division or whatever you have in your state out here planting trees for wildlife. So I think if I was going to do it, which I wouldn't, I would try to make myself look official, like I'm doing something I'm supposed to be doing. And to the untrained eye, after I'm gone, you know, they're just going to see trees and vegetation growing, you know. But to the people that know, you know, they're going to say, oh, look, there's an apple tree. Oh, look, there's a pear tree. Oh, look, there's apricots growing. Could have been planted there for wildlife. Could have been planted there for a different reason. So what do you think about pirate orchardry? Should we find everybody doing this and drag them out in the street and club them like a baby seal? I don't know. I don't think so. Now, if they're trespassing on private property, that's a different story. State property, as long as they're not introducing invasive species, you know, things like that, I don't know. Now, this doesn't have to be illegal. You could get in touch with your Department of Natural Resources or your city or your county or whoever owns the park or the wildlife land and talk to them about, hey, what if we came in there and planted some chestnut trees to be good for the deer? What if we came in there and planted some this or some of that? It'd be good for wildlife habitat. They might be all for it, you know. You might even be able to assemble a group of volunteers, go into an area, nature preserve type situation, and under the supervision of the government power that be, go in there and plant some things. All the while, keeping in the back of your head, you know, if times ever get tough and I got to feed my family, I know where I can go gather chestnuts or mulberries or walnuts or apples or pears or asparagus or whatever it is that you planted there for the wildlife. So don't do this without permission. Now, on private property, talk to the landowner. You know, you can get on the GIS survey of your county maybe on the internet and find out who owns what land and send them a letter. Hey, I noticed that, you know, you own this stand of timber over here by this road. I was wondering if I could go in there and plant some chestnut trees. It's good for the deer, you know, good for whatever. Talk to them about it. Say, hey, would you mind if I go in there and maybe pick up a couple buckets of chestnuts, things like that. But definitely always get permission before you do anything like this. There are people that don't. This is a thing. This is a thing that people are doing. They are planting trees and and other plants that come back year after year on public land, essentially, and they're doing it for the purpose of, now this is my food forest, now this is my orchard. I can come in here and harvest because I know what's planted where and when it's going to be ripe, stuff like that. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend you break any laws. I don't recommend that you go against the grain here, against the rules. I'm just bringing it to your attention. This pirate orchardry might have to be a topic I revisit in the future. I had big plans for this video, full of costume changes and special effects, and it's going to kind of just turn into where I'm talking, and that's lame. If you stuck through me on the video this far, I really appreciate that very much. Don't forget to hit like if you like the video. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and become a subscriber to the Olive Drive Alliance. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this stuff. Have you ever been at the park in your town or walking down the trail and just kind of noticed, like, that's weird that there's apple trees growing over there but nowhere else? Have you ever seen potentially evidence of pirate orchardry taking place near you? I want to hear about it. I want to hear what tactics you thought these people employed when they put their plan into effect. Anyway, I'll see you all down the trail somewhere. Until then, have a great day.